Well, the next stop on our tour of controls is going to be the validation controls, and these things are brand new to ASP.NET, and they're absolutely fabulous. On any web page that you design, that users are going to be interacting or sending information back to you that you've requested in a form or text box, you've got one main issue, or every developer has one common problem, and that is the user themselves. Now, we give users a hard time often, and we call them names like stupid and all kinds of things, and that's really not fair because the users don't understand computers often, and we do, and we expect them to kind of read our mind and know exactly what to put in all the blanks. And so one thing that's common to every web application that we've learned the hard way is to include some code to validate what the user's putting in. Otherwise, they'll either send us things that won't work and cause our program to stop, or the scary thing is they'll send us things that will seemingly work. They'll go through the program, but they'll produce results that we didn't want. So we need to check that. Now, one of the things Microsoft looked at was the fact that validation is needed on most any form that's being posted back to the web server. And there's a couple of ways to do this. Client-side validation is where we handle all this on the client side, and this is normally done through what we've known as DHTML, dynamic HTML. And it has some advantages. First of all, it's fast and efficient because the validation is occurring on the browser on the client's machine, which means that there's nothing passing back and forth to the server. It just happens almost instantly, and it's not a problem. It's also very interactive. We can totally build an interaction with the user, and we can even check for certain values that they've put in and question them and make sure that other coinciding values are there as well. Some disadvantages to client-side validation is the thing that we've wrestled with since the web started, and that's browser differences. Different browsers don't support different things and different versions and of VB-script or JavaScript and so forth, and this becomes a hassle. And also different browsers render things different ways. And so this usually pushes us back to server-side validation. There was a big movement among web developers 2 or 3 years ago to just go totally server-side. I heard a lot of students and a lot of people saying, we quit the browser thing. We're just going totally server-side on everything. It's slower, it's clunkier, but we don't have the problems that we used to have. And so everybody started to trade off performance just for the ability to make the doggone thing work. And so that was an issue. Now, the .NET validation controls, Microsoft, again, went back to the drawing board, decided, well, based on what we know how people are using the web page, let's offer some coding relief to that. This allows you to drop a validation control onto your web form, set some properties, and you'll have validation with minimal coding, and I'll show you an example in the next video. This is some really nice stuff. Now, the really cool thing about this is that your control automatically chooses whether to perform the validation on the client or the server side. It makes this choice for you. Now, the way it does that is it's going to write client-side script, and this is kind of interesting. The Microsoft's going to be writing JavaScript on the client side only if you're using Internet Explorer version 4.0 or higher. Now, this is one of the only weaknesses, I guess you'd say, as far as some people might be concerned, about the validation controls. You have to be using Internet Explorer, and it needs to be version 4.0 or higher if you want client-side script to happen. Now, this is the way it's going to think is that if it sees IE version 4 or higher, it's going to do validation on the client side because that is the most efficient place for that to take place. Now, validation will take place on the server side if we demand that, or if we're using a version of IE that's before 4.0, or if we're using any Netscape or other browser. Now, if for any reason I want to disable client-side validation, and it's kind of hard to imagine when you would want to do that, but you know how programming is. There's always a situation that crops up. So to disable client-side validation, we use an @page directive. And notice we set client target equal to down level. And what this is actually telling the ASP.NET guys on the server side is, look, don't even worry about the browser. It's down level, which means it's earlier than IE40, so don't even try to write client script out there. So we're basically just setting a property that it checked from the headers and causing it to go server side. Now there are a number of validation controls, and in the next video I'll talk about those, and then we'll drop a couple of them onto a page and see how they work.